Welcome, everybody, to this week's episode. We really appreciate you joining us. This podcast really shows us how we can all learn, live, and thrive off of each other. By sharing our knowledge through our conversations, we will impart some knowledge whilst learning ourselves how to progress even further. Here is your host.
Good afternoon. My name is Avery Ocampo. I'm your host for Beyond the Mic. I've got a special guest here with me this afternoon. This is voice actor Daniel Ross. He is joining us here today. Welcome, Daniel, to the show.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for having me.
Now, Daniel, I know you've been in a lot of different sorts of media. You've been a voice actor. You've been known for a lot of on-camera work. Now, if you could tell me just a little bit about yourself and really what got you into acting in the first place and how long have you been doing it?
Oh, gosh. Well, let's see. I was born on a Monday and had two parents, and I'm a Leo. I like long walks on the beach. Let's see here. I caught the acting bug, I think, when I was in middle school. I loved performing for my family and friends, at get-togethers and gatherings. But it wasn't until, I started taking theater in high school that I really galvanized my love of theater and the performing arts, studying Shakespeare and making people laugh. I always thought that was a lot of fun, and eliciting strong emotions from people I thought was very, very cool. So I pursued that. Musical theater was my degree in college. Then I moved on to film and TV, then to independent film production, and then years later took a twist and went into voice acting. So it's been a very varied career, and one that I'm very grateful for, that I get to creatively express myself in that way and have it be my job.
Funny enough, mind you, I was born in 2005. I grew up in the 2010s. For me, I've watched Mickey Mouse Clubhouse my entire life, and I had no idea until I found your page during COVID that you voiced Donald Duck up until I think right around the 2020s, I guess.
So I voiced Donald starting in 2015 with Mickey and the Roadster Racers up through 2021 with my curtain call as Mickey and Minnie Wish Upon a Christmas. And that's what I won the Emmy for a couple of years ago. So it's been a crazy, wild, amazing journey, and Donald is certainly a huge part of that journey and my career.
That I think I've seen Mickey Mouse and the Roadster Racers. I think I've seen it, but it's really cool to see that you've worked with Disney before. What really was your first role within either voice acting or on-camera work?
Oh, gosh. Let's see. Well, it wasn't Donald. That came later. I would say for voiceover, my first big role was in Transformers the Game in 2007, voicing Starscream, leader of the Decepticons. That was a dream come true because, as you can tell, I'm a big Transformers fan. I've got a ridiculous collection that takes up too much space. And I think for on-camera, I started that very early. I did a lot of extra work, stand-in work in D.C. and Baltimore. In my early years, I worked on the show The Wire for a time, movies like Ladder 49, Something the Lord Made, things of that nature. And then, branched out into independent film. But I would say that my biggest roles of that stage of my career was probably from the Ninjas Versus movies. I played a foul-mouthed, gun-wielding ninja, magical ninja named Kyle, and we did a trilogy of those movies, which was just so much fun. And so I think that was probably the beginning of it, but a lot of extra work, a lot of little tiny things here and there sprinkled throughout, all, of course, building up my appetite to do more.
I think I've seen some of it because I was on your website just a little bit ago. I've seen your acting reel. So it's kind of crazy to think about that you've done roles prior to voiceover, because were you just doing on-camera work before, or were you doing both at the same time?
No, I was exclusively doing theater and on-camera work, and I really thought that was going to be the trajectory of my career until, this thing with voiceover kind of happened. I've always been doing silly voices. I've always been doing impressions and impersonations. It just never occurred to me that that would be the direction later in my life my career would take me. Because I often tell people I didn't like my voice. I would not book the
Right.
roles that I wanted to because I have kind of a quirky tonality and rhythm to the way that I speak. And so I wouldn't book the things that I wanted to. And then it was like the light bulb went off, and I met other voice actors, and I was highly encouraged to take a chance and jump on in. And that was the best thing I could have possibly done. 2014, I packed up my car from DC and drove all the way to Los Angeles across the country just for a shot at, voice acting to see what could happen. I gave myself 5 years, and that was 12 years ago. So far, so good.
So you've been doing voiceover for, wow.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
Oh my God.
It was
I'm like
strange
doing
because
like
I
the
just
mental
I
math
stepped into it.
because 2014 was, yeesh, that's like 10 plus years ago.
Yeah.
And to think about it now, because I have your poster, which is on your site. I have it where you have all your different characters that you voiced. And it's really, really impressive that in that just short amount of time that you were able to do a lot of these characters and really bring them to life.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been astounding to me as well. I never anticipated that I would be in the position that I am today to have those amazing characters as part of my journey. But I think falling into legacy characters, which are characters that have been voiced by other individuals, it's just a real honor to be chosen, out of all the hundreds, if not thousands of people that audition for those, to be the one person that gets to step in and continue that legacy is an honor beyond anything I thought would be my calling. So I really love this industry and what I get to do, and of course, how it resonates with other people. When we talk about Donald Duck, it's not about me, it's about the character that everybody knows and loves and has loved for almost a century across, all nations in this world. Donald Duck is world renowned, so his legacy is his own, and I'm just a tiny, footnote in all of that. But what a joy to be able to do that. And so it does not fall on deaf ears, so that I get the opportunity to do it. And yeah, I love what I do. What could I say?
Now, in terms of based off of just your numerous roles and work that you've done, what does a typical day look for you in terms of how that process works from, because I know obviously I know now, for example, actors and voice actors have an agent. I know that much. But
Yeah.
how does that play out? Do you get the roles sent to you, and then do you like do the audition after that, or how does that typically work
Yeah.
on your
So
end as a day
uh,
to day?
day in the life, look, I am a people's just like everybody else. I wake up, I brush my teeth, I do my warm-ups, but I have a very interesting job in that it's not consistent like a 9 to 5. Some days I have 1 or 2 auditions. Some days I might have up to 20 auditions. Some days I might have multiple sessions in a day, or I'm meeting somebody to do lunch or to do coffee, and network. It's a very varied job, and every day is different. So I often luxuriate in the days when I don't have anything to do and I can just rest and relax and recharge. But as far as auditions go, I do have an agency. I'm repped by CESD, which is one of the biggest and best in the country. They represent me for this market, and they send me auditions, both in commercial, animation, video games, promo, across the board. And my job every day is to audition to the best of my ability and essentially to say, okay, I've booked this role and this is how I would do it if you cast me. And it's a joy to just have my day be varied. Some days I'm doing really serious characters in nature, and other times they're very aloof and silly. And sometimes those are back to back. So I love the ability to have such variety in what I do, but that's generally a day to day. It's all over the place, and I still got to find time to, go to the gym and work out and
Right.
play with my bird buddy and have a social life. It's a juggle.
Because and this is the way I see it, just because I went to Fan Expo last year. I had the privilege of meeting Philip Glasser and Don Bluth.
Yes. I love
Wonderful
those guys.
people. I love them to bits. And kind of like what I told Philip as well is that for me, obviously, I was nervous at the time of being able to interact with him and ask him a couple questions just out of the blue. And he even kind of like reassured me, like, "Hey, I'm just a normal guy. You don't have to be nervous around me." I'm like, I know, but and even for me, I've been behind the camera, behind microphones since I was like 9, just doing a lot of content creating. So I'm used to it. I'm used to this kind of thing. But time and time again, I get nervous. Even like today with today's show, I was a little bit nervous, but I'm like, hey, pull through it. You guys are both people at the end of the day, but it's also kind of a cool opportunity for me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Look, I still get nervous sometimes myself. I met Brian Henson, the son of Jim Henson, at a show called Puppet Up a couple weeks ago. And, I had my opportunity to meet him and shake his hand and thank him for everything he's done for me and for others. And yeah, I got a little starstruck. That happens every so often. And speaking of Philip, I was just in New York City. I signed with Philip at Comic-Con Kansas City last year. But I was in New York City and I got to climb to the top of the Statue of Liberty. And there's this scene in An American Tail where Fievel and the pigeon he's building the statue, the French guy who's building the statue.
And it was during,
and
if I remember correctly, it was during the Never Say Never musical number. It was during that scene.
Halfway up the Statue of Liberty, I had to sing it. I had to sing it in the place that happened. So that was a fun little moment for me. Just reflecting on Philip and An American Tail.
Now, in terms of a lot of commercial work, you've done Grimace for McDonald's. You've done Lucky the Leprechaun.
Did you like my shake?
Oh my god, I still remember the whole Grimace shake commercials.
You survived.
And then the trend after that. Now, how long, if you don't mind me asking, how long have you been doing Lucky the Leprechaun?
So Lucky, I voiced from about 2015-17, and I haven't seen all of the commercials that we did. I've seen a few of them, but they're out there in the world somewhere. Lucky was the very first major thing that I booked at a time when I wasn't really certain about what my future was going to be. I was working overnights at Target, managing the logistics process, all the trucks coming in, the freight going out, putting all the new stuff out overnight, cleaning up. It was the hardest job I've ever had in my life, and there was a part of me that was saying it's time to move on. I was booking some things and I was having some income, but it was like something was telling me it's time to move on from your steady job where you get health benefits and all these other things. And so literally the day that I said goodbye after putting in my 2 weeks, I'm driving off the parking lot at 8 a.m., fried because my job was just so hard, and my agent calls and says, you booked Lucky. And so I had to pull over my car and have a good cry, and I just was like, I got lucky. I got lucky. I really feel lucky in this moment to have trusted my instincts and said, let's move on from this. And now I'm being rewarded with a pot of Lucky Charms and delicious marshmallows. So that was a really poignant moment in the career.
And speaking of which, what was it like for you at the time, just working a regular 9-to-5 job apart from what you were already doing? Was it stressful? Was it easy to manage?
No, and it wasn't a 9-to-5. I was working from like 10 p.m. until 8 a.m. every single day.
Wow.
And so what it did for me is it gave me my days free so that if I needed to go to an audition in person or if I needed to go to a networking event, I could do it. I would just lose sleep. And I was still in my early 30s, so I could do that. Now I'm in my 40s. I need my sleep. But it was a very difficult task to be awake at night and then sleep during the day when everybody's schedule is completely different. But it gave me the leg up to be able to put myself in places where I could be seen, where I could be heard, and where I could get the most work done if I needed to. So I would just lose sleep. And that was all. I'd drink lots of Red Bulls, and I'm sure my kidneys will thank me when I'm in my 70s.
I figured I'd ask that more specifically because for me, I used to work for a local hotel chain. A lot of people might know it because it's so wilderness, like wolf themed. We all know it. I'll just say that. And a coworker of mine actually works as an actress within the Chicago area. And to me, I'm always like, how can you work part-time at the hotel and then still be able to book roles and work at the shoot the
Yeah, so again, working overnights really gave me the flexibility to not have to worry about rescheduling myself. If I needed to take time off, I was very precise because we had a limited amount of crew that would work overnights. So, I had to barter with some of my peers, like, hey, if you can cover me this day, I'll cover you on the weekend, or I'll cover you on this day, or whatever. So it was always, to my detriment. I never got a leg up on that, but if I needed to be somewhere, if I had an overnight shoot or anything of that capacity, then I was available. So it was difficult. It was the hardest job I ever had, and walking away from it, I still love my family and friends over at Target, but I was very glad to leave.
And for me, funny enough, I actually back in 2021, I landed a commercial or an ad spot it was a Spanish ad for the CDC. And for me, because it was the first time I've ever done it. And it's crazy to think about that. After 4 years, I've still been dabbling into it, which, like, kind of like how you said, it's difficult at times to see what's open, what I can audition for, and I enjoy it. I enjoyed it a lot. So I just figured I kind of also mentioned that in a way, just so I guess so like I've kind of experienced it a little bit, not by a lot, but a little bit.
Sure. I mean, listen, when I coach other people in voiceover, I always tell them it's important to know your instrument. It's important to know what your capabilities are so that when you start navigating the business side of things, you can communicate very clearly what it is you do and why people should hire you, which is very important. That's how you have longevity in this business, is being easy to work with. And essentially, I don't want to say know your place, but know where you fit in so that you can do the best work that you possibly can. Because I think if you try to focus on everything, you may accomplish nothing. Whereas if you're laser focused on something, your chances are much better. But yeah, kudos, man. Commercials are fun.
I loved it. I think at the time,
unless it's like, some kind of cream that the doctor is, sending you, like, I'm advertising cream for genital warts. Oh, it's wonderful.
If I remember correctly, it was a HIV preventative.
Okay.
And for me, doing it in Spanish usually flows easier. Sometimes in English, I struggle with it a little bit, but between both languages, I'm able to work on both.
Claro.
With that one, the production team kind of emailed me back. They're like, hey, we just need you to re-record it and like work on your pronunciation, not your pronunciation, like the motion in it, so it's not too energetic.
Mm-hmm.
I did, and then I didn't hear back from them until like 4 years later when I was finally like compensated for my work.
Oh my goodness, that's a long time.
Because usually, like, I didn't want to bother them. I assumed I just didn't, like, land it or anything like that. That's what I assumed. So I've been doing fan-made stuff as well. That project's still underway 4 years later. We're still looking for actors and animators. So we're still looking there. So I'm still working on that with the production team there. But it's kind of crazy to think about that one because I know there's a lot of people who do it as, like, who do it on their spare time. And it's crazy that a lot of people, go into it and, have fun. It's fun to do. I will say it's fun. It's fun to do. I might add.
I always say it's fun to work. It's very nice to work. I mean, the auditions are great. It's varied. It's wonderful. But yeah, when you book it and you get to go to the studio and live it and make it come to life, I mean, that's what we're all chasing at the end of the day. So yeah, I totally get that.
Now, I did kind of want to ask this as well. Is there a point in time where you kind of just have to rest your voice? Let's say you're sick or anything. How do you or what do you do to um take care of your voice?
Sure. I mean, there's a variety of things. First and foremost, stay hydrated. Drink a lot of water, a lot of tea, get a lot of that in you. I like to keep my sinuses clear. I use a device called Navage to keep my sinuses nice and clear and hydrated, moisturized. That always helps. There are salves that you can take, lozenges and things when you're in session. Entertainer's Secret, which is a spray. I think it's just a glycerin spray to keep everything nice and loosey-goosey. So those are some basic things, but, maintaining your health. And I go even a step further. I do ginger, lemon, turmeric shots in the morning, which help my stomach so I don't have acid reflux, which can destroy your vocal cords. So, there are things that you do, and just staying healthy, working out, exercising, getting some cardio, smiling a lot, de-stressing, meditating, all of that goes into facilitating a better and easier performance when you actually book it. But listen, there are days when you're doing efforts and you're screaming your head off and your voice just degrades because you're doing the work. And I've been in situations where you have to go from something like that to another session, if not the same day, then the next day. And do you have enough time to recuperate? Sometimes you have to finagle it a little bit to get it just right. But yeah, there have been instances where I didn't listen to myself and I've ended up with a throat infection because I pushed too hard, or I should have asked for a break, or I should have asked to maybe separate a session out. That's happened, but you live and you learn as you go. But yeah, the ideal is to stay as healthy as possible so that you can be ready for when the moment arrives.
Now, obviously, I know as both content creators and voiceover and actors in general have opportunities to go to conventions. What was your first con that you went to, and what did you feel initially when you first went to a con for the first time?
So I used to go to Transformers conventions as a fan, before voiceover was a thing, to meet other voice actors and to get the exclusive merch and, to interact with other folks and, just revel in the hobby. Those were always fun for me. The first time I stepped behind the table, I think was 2007, when the Transformers movie was released, the first Michael Bay movie, because I did the video games. And so I'll never forget, I was in Rhode Island, and I'm sitting next to David Kaye, Megatron, and Peter Cullen to my right, Optimus Prime, and I couldn't believe where I was. I couldn't believe that they were sitting next to me and that I was a peer, and they're talking to me like, we're going off into the green room and having lunch and we're just chit-chatting like it's a Tuesday. I couldn't get over that because I was such a fan.
Were you shell-shocked at that moment?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. It was all new and exciting to me. And I think, at the time, there was a little touch of ego there. Like, ooh, I get to sign autographs for people. I'm hot stuff. I'm hot stuff. But I later realized that it really has nothing to do with me. It's the characters that people are gravitating towards. And so I'm a vessel for the character that they already love. And if they so happen to appreciate my career or me or my background, then that's just an added bonus. But I love getting the opportunity to meet people where their fandom and nostalgia resides. That is such a special place, because that's where your inner child lives. And, when we meet in person, we get to enjoy that and really linger in that moment. I was just in Syracuse, New York at Syracuse Collectors Con and meeting fans and talking about stuff. And there were some Daniel Ross fans there, which just blew my mind. There was an individual named Zed who helped me. That was my volunteer for the weekend, who was a huge fan of Transformers the game and knew all the lore and history of it. And to them, that was their world. That was a whole thing. And, that was, my gosh, I want to say, almost 20 years ago. That was 19 years ago. Wow. That we recorded that. or I should say that it was released 2007. It's now almost 2026, so one more year. But, that was their thing when they grew up. They played that game over and over and over again. And to me, it's like it was just yesterday when we went through that process. So it's really wild. I love the opportunity to get out and meet other fans and just meet them where they are and have a good conversation.
What was the most positive interaction that you've had or with a fan at one of the conventions?
I couldn't whittle it down to a singular moment, but I will say something that is very special.
Or I should say more of like a memorable, to rephrase it.
No, I'm right there with you. I think, given that I had a very special relationship with my mother, who taught me how to do the Donald Duck voice when I was 3 years old. That was our love language. That was something we always did long before, me playing Donald was an actual thing. It was just for fun. It was just to make people laugh and to light up a room. And so that was our love language. And I hear from people very often that their dad would do the voice, their grandpa, their uncle, their friend. And sometimes when they share that story, that person is no longer with us. And so knowing full well what that feels like, I get to look at them and I get to look them in the eyes and say, I have a message for you from your dad, your grandpa, or whomever it is. I love you very much. And the instant connection that we have in that moment is just, it's incredible. It's incredible. And again, has very little to do with me. It's about the character that they love. But through that character, they know love, they know what it means to feel cared for, and so we can share in that moment. And I really love the ability to be able to do that. So I know it's not a singular thing, it happens very often, but anytime I get to share that with somebody and give them a big hug afterwards, man, is that healing for both of us.
I've seen it. I've seen those kinds of interactions like on social media from various actors. I've seen just a lot of interactions online, and it amazes me that either a character's voice or how a character is portrayed on any kind of media really resonates with that person. May that be it reminded them of a family member, or it just reminded them of, I'm trying to think of one. Like, for example, I use An American Tale I'll use An American Tale as an example. I connect with Fievel in a way because, for example, my own mother, she is an immigrant. So based off of the story from the film itself, that's what makes me hold that film in my heart, along with the character, mainly just due to that personal experience from my mom.
Absolutely.
And like from when I met Philip, it just felt, I wouldn't say weird, it just felt like I'm meeting the person who voices this character who I relate to in a way. And it touches somebody emotionally.
Yeah.
That when they either they hug, like for example, they hug the actor or the individual, or they just cry. I would say it's something to be blessed with in a way.
Absolutely. I mean, listen, when you watch a movie, you don't just watch a movie and then the movie disappears. It becomes a part of you. It becomes part of your lived experience. You spent a portion of your waking day absorbing that information and feeling those emotions and going on that journey. It's a fundamental part of being human, but it is a part of you. Fievel and American Tail, all those characters are a part of you. So you getting to connect with that part of yourself in human form is a very interesting experience. So yeah, I totally get that.
And this is going to be a funny question for you. I don't know if you get this a lot, but is there any, let's say you're going to Ralph's or anything like that. Do you ever get recognized in public, just if you're out and about shopping or anything like that?
I do. And I credit that to TikTok. because during the pandemic, I really, went crazy in terms of creating content. I mean, we were all stuck at home during the lockdown.
Right.
So I said, what am I going to do? And I went to TikTok and just said, all right, let me take the mask off. Let me show everybody who I am. And let's have some fun and let's have some levity at a time when levity was hard to have. So, yeah, sometimes I go out and people recognize me, or if I'm at, geeky events, sometimes I get recognized. Some people know me from my work these days as the characters. But yeah, it started kind of with TikTok, and it's always interesting as a voice actor to be recognized in public because you don't see any of this. All you hear is the voice. So I'm always honored when somebody makes that connection and wants to come over and say hi. And I always encourage people to, especially if I'm at like the Disney parks. I wear a very outspoken Donald shirt that you can't miss. And so I always tell people, if you want to come up and say hi, please don't be shy. Please don't be shy. Come and say hello and I'll say hello back. So yeah, I love chatting with people and meeting people out in the wild.
Having, at least because I can remember that Rob Paulson kind of has said this as well, where he, like, for example, all you hear is the voice of that character. Or he's always said that I'm just the face behind it.
Yes.
Obviously, you don't see that individual's face. You obviously won't know until, like, for example, you see the credits or you actually get to meet them in person.
Yeah. And it's always funny, too, because sometimes the face doesn't match the voice at all. And you're like, wait, what?
Right.
He doesn't look like a duck. He doesn't look like a cantankerous duck. That doesn't work, but that's how it works. And Rob Paulson has one of the greatest things ever. He leads with an attitude of gratitude. And I really appreciate that and try to live that every single day.
I've always enjoyed, because I've looked up to so many different voice actors who currently work in the industry, and for a time, because this was back when Wizard World was still a thing, because now it's Fan Expo.
Yeah.
When that year in 2021, I was able to actually meet Rob Paulson via Zoom, and it was so surreal. And I think maybe a few weeks prior, he ended up following me on Twitter all of a sudden.
Yeah.
But a lot of things that he's kind of said to me, it always sticks with me all the time. Like when he's given me tips on like for voiceover agents and things like that, because I've asked him personally about it. It helps. It's helped a lot.
Oh, he is just one of the most genuine individuals I've ever met. Again, exemplary of why I wanted to become a voice actor, because of people like him. I just resonated with that, and I love individuals, but he's like that all the time. And he gives you his time of day. He's genuine. He's lovely. He's hysterical. Rob Paulson is one of my top tier humans. And my first time meeting him was just as spectacular. So I totally get that.
Now, in terms of your work, because I'm currently still on your website, have you done any audiobooks before?
No, that's one of those areas of VO that I just have not ventured into. I really wanted to permeate the animation video game space, and that's really where the bulk of my work comes from these days. I'm always open to it. If something crossed my path and I really believed in it, I would jump on that. But it hasn't been my focus.
And then in terms of commercial, and then from what I'm seeing here, you've done promos as well. Where can you be heard in terms of commercials nowadays?
I'll be honest, I don't book as many commercials as I do animation video games, but when I do book commercials, a lot of it is very character-y. And I think that's just because of the natural nature of my voice, my intonation, my levels. I am a bit cartoony myself. And so I bring a levity to the voices that I book, and things like Grimace, things like Lucky the Leprechaun. Recently, I did a commercial where I was, like a 1940s announcer for a scratcher commercial out of the Georgia Lottery. So it's always animated and bright. And so that's kind of where I fit into things. I can do the other side of it too. I have some resonance in my voice. I can get low if I need to in front of a microphone. But yeah, it's not the natural read kind of thing, the everyday man kind of read that I tend to book. It's always cartoony, animated, bubbly, energetic, quirky, that sort of thing. So commercials, I book a bit less, but I like to think that what I book has more impact.
Where in I know you've done voiceover and then on-camera acting for a long time.
Yeah.
But and I kind of asked this a lot to both friends and people that I have on the show. Where would you see yourself within the next 5 to 10 years from now?
Great question. I've been actively thinking about that, actually. I love voiceover. I never want to get away from it, but I am looking for something different. So I've been angling back towards on camera, which is not easy. You know, the older you get, the opportunities change from what maybe you have expectation wise in your own brain. So I'm open to seeing what happens. I had a film that I recorded a couple years ago called Stinky Summer, which came out last year on digital. It's like a family film, and I play a bad guy who gets abused by all these campers who set booby traps for him, and it's so much fun. If you want to watch me being abused and terrorized by little children, Stinky Summer, you should watch it. And I'm open to whatever comes next. But I have been positioning myself as an author. I just recently wrote a children's book, a bedtime story, based off of characters that my late mom had created and used to tell me stories about when I was a kid. And so I've created a bedtime story, and I'm working with an illustrator. And there will be a crowdsourcing campaign probably over the summer to help raise some funds for it. But I'm so excited about that journey of getting into this process and discovering it along the way, bringing me a lot of joy. And I think maybe as far as things to do on the side, this is something I will probably enjoy doing for some time. So we'll see where it goes.
And then, let me see, I think, because right now it is.
And then, of course,
44.
dusting my Transformers collection, which will take 5 to 10 years.
Now, let's say on camera and voiceover didn't pan out, right? Let's say that as an example. Where would you see yourself in this time frame? Would you be working retail? Would you be working just any other like oddball jobs in that case?
Listen, I will do whatever it takes to survive. But I would say at this juncture in my life, I don't know how I could go back to that. I've been in a creative headspace for a long time. If I, traveled the country teaching voiceover, I would love to do that. I've done that many times. I've led many workshops. I've traveled internationally to places like Switzerland and taught. I think that would be a lot of fun and rewarding to just kind of pass the torch or throw down the ladder to some up-and-comers and say, hey, there's no gatekeeping here. Let's do this together. I love giving my energy in that way to others. So I would probably teach. I would definitely lean into authorship and writing, but I don't know what else I would do. I don't know. There's always film production, which I enjoy. But as you know, things are changing. The entertainment industry is changing. So maybe I go into vertical. I don't know.
It is vastly changing.
But whatever the future holds, I'm excited for it. I just think this current path that I'm on is bringing me joy. And that is something that you have to find in life. You have to seek it out. You have to create space for joy to enter your life. And that's easier said than done.
Would you, this is kind of another question I wanted to ask you.
Start an OnlyFans account? No.
No! I personally hate that platform exists. But what would you tell your younger self? If you could speak to your younger self, what would you say?
It's funny. I made a video on TikTok actually speaking to my younger self. And that was a very healing and therapeutic exercise for me to do. I think if I was to tell my younger self anything, it would just be to keep going. Just keep going. I had a rough late childhood, early teenage years. It was very, very difficult, but I survived, and my solace was the performing arts, was theater, was being able to amalgamate myself into different characters and to elicit emotions through other people. That was very gratifying for me because it distracted me from, what was going on in my life at the time. And so, yeah, my message to my younger self is keep going because the world gets better, you get smarter, and beautiful things can happen.
That I will say that's always like a number one question a lot of people get, especially because if you've come this far and you really kind of have to think to yourself like how did I manage it? At the same time, you're asking yourself how did I manage to come this far? Even like for me, I've been doing I've been doing content creation and podcasting since content creation I've been doing since I was 9. My podcast I've done since middle school. And to think that I've reached out to politicians, I've reached out to another actor, to a comedian. It's crazy to think about that I've reached out to so many people and they've devoted their time into speaking with me for an hour about really what they do, just answering all these questions. It's shocking to me that I've been able to do this kind of stuff on my own and without having to put so much or not effort, put so much money into it. Because what I say is like just using what I have.
Anything that is humanly possible is possible for you. And so the only thing you can do is reach out and ask, which is 90% more than other people do sometimes. So the sheer fact that you've even reached out or asked for individuals to join you and chat with you is, 90% of the game. So kudos to you for even pursuing it, because again, the more you ask, the more you try, it's amazing how the universe will reward that. So yeah, when I say
I
keep
do want to
going,
briefly apologize because my mom ended up coming into my room to just be like, "Hey, supper's ready." I'm like, "I'm in, but I'm recording."
don't you know I'm talking to one of the Donald Duck?
No, no. Okay, now that you actually bring that up,
What's for supper? It better not be duck.
no, she made like noodle like soup with like chicken bouillon in it for
Ooh,
flavor,
nice.
and it's like a typical usually winter kind of food that my mom makes usually.
I love soup.
I would say you're lucky to live where you are because the Midwest it's cold.
Oh, I'm Lucky the Leprechaun. Actually, I
Now,
love the Midwest and I love the cold. I am a veritable polar bear. And so here in Los Angeles, like the past 2 weeks, it's been over 100 degrees. And then I got to New York
really,
City and it was in like the 30s. And I'm like, oh, I love it so much. Give me more. I was luxuriating in it. I love
because
the cold.
remind me again, you grew up in the Midwest, correct?
I grew up in Maryland on the East Coast.
On the East
Yeah.
Coast, because I'm guessing they get snow and it's chilly over there as well, correct?
All kinds of weather at every point of the day. So in the morning, it might be snowing. At night, we might be having a thunderstorm or it's like summertime.
What's that like having to like, especially now that you're living in LA? What's that like having to adjust to those difference in temperatures compared to what you're having in California compared to when you go to the Midwest?
Oh, well, first of all, I sleep much better when I'm back on the other coast because it's cooler. I like to sleep cold. So if it's hot, I don't sleep as well. But it's very consistent out here. It's usually hot and sunny or very nice and sunny, like in the 70s or early, low 80s or whatever. So it's consistent, but I like some variety. I like a little bit of this and a little bit of that. And so when it's wintertime and it's sunny outside and 70 degrees, I'm like, where is my snow? Where is it? I need it. So I have to take a trip out to just get a little bit of that in me because it's part of who I am. I grew up with it and I miss it.
My last question, just because I know we only have a couple minutes,
Yeah.
my last question to you would be this is mainly pertaining to one of the roles that you've done. What was the process like when auditioning for Grimace?
Ooh. So Grimace was a lot of fun. I got an audition through CESD. They were looking for classic Grimace, which I remembered from my childhood. The McDonald's mascots were in full effect when I was growing up in the 80s. And, they've existed since, the 60s. And so Grimace started out as the evil Grimace, and he had 6 arms, and he stole
With the
milkshakes and drinks.
milkshakes.
That's right. And then he got a rebrand and they chopped off some of the arms. So then he was more friendly and accessible. And it was the same voice as Barney Rubble from the Flintstones. Hey, Fred, it's me. Exactly the same voice. Hey, Ron.
I am in shock.
And so that was something that I always did impressions of. And when the audition crossed my path and they were asking for classic Grimace, I knew exactly what they were looking for and I was able to lock in. And so, I booked the job, we recorded, and they were looking for something a little bit different, a little deeper, a little more disconnected from what came before, which is their prerogative. It was for a commercial that aired during the Super Bowl where they're all going, "Can I get a," and they're standing in front of the McDonald's menu going, and then Grimace is there going, and you see some thought bubbles of sandwiches pop up and saying, "Pick me, no, pick me." And so I was so excited. I'm like, oh my gosh, Grimace, one of my favorite, fast food mascots. I got the pop figure. I told all my friends and family, go watch the Super Bowl and you're going to hear me at the Super Bowl. It's my first time. And the commercial airs and it's not me. It's not my voice. It's not my voice going, the sandwiches were still me, but I'm like, that's not my voice. And I go online and all over the news, Ryan Reynolds voices Grimace for McDonald's. And I went, why did this happen? But McDonald's was kind enough to reach out again later for Grimace's birthday, which Grimace had
For
much
the
more
Grimace
dialogue
shake, if I
for.
remember.
And so that happened. And again, they were kind of re-envisioning the character to be a little bit deeper and, less of the and everything else. So the one thing that I kept asking them, I said, if I could please ask one thing, it's that we get the laugh. The classic laugh. Just have that in there somewhere. And they obliged and they put it in one of the commercials. But it's been a fun journey with Grimace. And I hope McDonald's uses him some more, as well as all the other classic characters.
Because when I was growing up, the McDonald's that my mom used to work at, they had in the place images of Birdie, Grimace, a lot of the McDonald Land characters.
Yeah.
And it's kind of sad to think about that they're not prevalent anymore within the commercials, at least in terms of recording for Grimace and just in voiceover in general. Is there usually an image of the character in the recording booth so that way you can kind of get an idea of what they're going to sound like? Or how does that play out?
If it's a new character, yes. Like if we're in if I've gone to the point where I've auditioned, I've booked it, I'm in the recording session, yeah, sometimes you'll have a picture of the character. Other times, maybe you won't. As far as Grimace goes, we all know what Grimace looks like, unless they're completely re-envisioning the character. So in my case, when I went to record for Grimace, there was no picture present, because we already knew what the character looked like. But if it's a new character, it's something you haven't voiced before, you're lucky if you get a picture of the character. Sometimes you just receive script and you have to make assumptions based off of details you can pull out from the words themselves, which is its own process in and of itself. But if you're lucky enough to have an image of the character, you can look at their physicality, you can look at the size of their mouth or their teeth or their arms or how they dress or what their expressions are like. If they've got one big snaggletooth, then they're probably going to have some kind of affectation when they talk, or they're going to have some kind of lisp. You never know. So it all really just depends on the interpretation. But yeah, you're lucky if you get a picture to begin with. But by the time you hit the booth, they'll either present you with something so you can see what's going on, or you got nothing at all.
Because from auditioning, what's the turnaround time normally from going to audition, or I should say from getting a call from your agent, auditioning, and then ultimately hearing back to say if you did get the role or if you didn't?
It varies. Sometimes you hear that you got the role. That's the only time you're going to hear anything is if you book it. If you don't book it, You just don't hear anything. So the idea is
Really?
yeah, the idea is to send it and forget it. My job is to audition. So I'm going to audition as much as possible. I'm going to give them my best work. And if it resonates with them, I might get a call back where they need a little bit more. But most of the time, you just book it outright. So that can be anywhere from a week, 2 weeks, a month, even up to a year. So you never know. But that's why it's important to send it and forget it. Because if you linger on it, if you're wondering, you might get tied up in it, and that can be a bad recipe for your mental health.
That was my mistake when I when I had auditioned for the fan-made version of the Goofy movie, when I had auditioned for Bobby. That was my mistake. But now that you've said that, now I'm going to make sure that actually gets engraved in my head so I know, like, hey, just set it and forget it.
Look, it's easier said than done. There have been roles that I've auditioned for where I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I get to read for that. I hope I get it. I hope I get it. And then, 2 days later, I hope I get it. You got to stop. You have to stop.
Right.
You have to move on to other things because you'll just make yourself crazy.
Well, thank you so much, Daniel, for truly allowing me to speak with you today. I will say it's truly an honor to get to speak with you, mainly because I only see you on TikTok, so it's something new for me. But really, thank you and to your team for allowing me the opportunity.
Absolutely.
And I really hope to see you sometime in person, either at a con or back on TikTok.
Heck yeah.
Did you want to shout out any of your social medias or?
Oh my
Or your
goodness,
website
yes
at all?
I do. Of course I do. Well, first of all, thank you for having me. It was a pleasure talking to you as well. I hope you enjoy your soup.
Hopefully.
I hope it's good. Tell your mom I'm sad I can't be there to partake with you. I'm sure it's delicious. But yes, you can find me across social media at actor Daniel Ross. The Tickety Talks, the Instagrammies, the Twitter places, the Facebookies, all of those. Actor Daniel Ross. Please do follow along my shenanigans and stay tuned because my book is going to be coming out soon. I can't announce it just yet, but I'm very excited to share that with everybody. So please keep a lookout and follow the channel with Avery for more podcasts, interviews, and other such wonderful things.
Thank you, Daniel, so much for being here once again. If you would like to follow Daniel Ross on Instagram, that is actor Daniel Ross. I'm assuming same handle for all social medias. If you would like to see any of his work as well, you can go to actordanielross.com. That's actordanielross.com. And if you want to hear more and follow Beyond the Mic, you can give us a follow at LJ Entertainment Media or look up Beyond the Mic with Avery on YouTube. Thank you so much for tuning in. But now Daniel and I got to tune out.